Hello and welcome back to the UK edition. It isn't holiday season, but really it always is. When we aren't on a holiday, we are planning one, and the Easter break is not far, unless of course coronavirus upsets plans. It is advancing further and further into Europe all the time. But thinking holidays, still we just take it for granted that we'll get online and shop and book and fly. But the first to make that happen in Britain was Dinesh Dhamija of eBookers, remember. From there he went on to become a member of the European Parliament, and now he has some other unexpected plans in store. A word with him. Dinesh, you sold eBookers for $500 million. What do you do with that money? Blow it up?
For a start, it was just under $500 million, and it was a public company. I did own a lot of shares, but I didn't get $500 million. I mean, my shareholders got $500 million.
Surely you can't complain of a relative poverty here.
No, I certainly can't.
So what did you do with the money? Blow it up?
Well, I tried to preserve it, but it's very difficult.
Good whiskey.
So I started some charities. I started investments in property. I had a 10-year non-compete, so I couldn't go back into travel for 10 years.
So you actually used a lot of that money for charity. What charity?
I didn't use a lot of it, but I used some of it. I started a charity called Shiksha that educated 1,100 street kids in school just outside Delhi, which my brother-in-law and his son run now.
Yes, well, I mean, sure. I mean, you've got so much to do. You're bound to forget a few things along the way.
We give 120,000 people free medicine outside Delhi as well.
Is that in India?
Outside Delhi.
Outside
also,
Delhi?
with 15 pharmacies.
But there's a lot of people in the travel business, and there have been so many travel businesses. What did you do right? What did you do different to have made such a success of eBookers?
For a start, you need luck.
Well, that you can't explain away, but to the extent that you can, what you did?
Well, I used to travel a lot to the United States, and I learned about the internet there. And I said, why can't the internet work in the UK and Europe?
And this was the early days of internet.
This was the early days. I mean, Amazon had just started in '94. We started in November '96. So, I mean, they're not heard of here.
So you wrote the new technology of the internet?
My people, the software engineers that I employed and others, yes, we did.
So which meant what? Which meant that this was the first time you could go online and book your travel, which everyone does now?
It was interactive with an airline booking engine. So you could go on a website at 2 a.m. While the travel agency was closed, everyone was asleep, make a booking, give your credit card, and you got your confirmation online.
And this is the first time that sort of thing was happening?
First time it happened in the UK on our website.
Did you find a lot of people resistant to this at first and wary of it?
A lot of people did research online, then came and gave their money and booked their tickets offline. But that was 7 out of 8 people did that initially. But a lot of people who wanted to book online and tell everyone, I have booked online, did so.
Where did this idea come from?
Well, from the United States.
Well,
because they were ahead of us by 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And I could see what was happening there.
And you were in the travel business already in the UK?
Sure. I was there since 1980, but bricks and mortar.
Right. So it's just the regular high street
Correct.
shop.
And call center.
And call center. Right. And what kind of scale did you build up to, starting from where you did?
I started in Earl's Court Tube Station in a kiosk, 80 square feet big. And
when was that?
And that was in 1980. Mm-hmm. And it was my wife, myself. And we built it up to 235 people in 1996. We were in 3 large locations. I don't remember the square footage.
Right, sure. And then you came up with another surprise. You joined the Lib Dems. I mean, the Lib Dems were a party going nowhere then, they're going nowhere now. Don't mean to be disrespectful to your party, but why the Lib Dems?
Well, as a person of Indian origin, I have to be socially liberal. No question about it. Because being a minority, if you're not liberal, you're really cutting your nose to spite your face. But
Well, a lot of people not exactly going your way, but that apart.
But fiscally, financially, I'm certainly a conservative with a small c. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in business and haven't made that much money.
And the two don't clash.
They don't clash.
A conservative with a small c, Lib Dem.
Conservatives and socially liberal.
Well,
I mean, most of the
actually.
conservatives will say we are socially liberal. They might not be, though.
So then that took you to the European Parliament.
Well, I sold e-bookers in 2005 and I joined the Lib Dems in 2014. So there was a bit of a gap of nearly 10 years.
Doing what?
And I was basically into charity. I told you I set up a couple of charities in India, but I also did a lot of charity work in the UK. So I was a trustee of a charity called Scope, which was for cerebral palsy victims. I was trustee of the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust, where they give scholarships to people who come back with knowledge to help societies where they live. And now I'm a trustee of Lepra, the leprosy charity.
Right. Now, through the European Parliament, we heard you speak up, and you spoke up very emphatically and eloquently in India's interest. Now that there is no British participation left in the European Parliament, will that be a loss to Europe? Will that be a loss to Britain?
Well, I'm sure there'll be other Indophiles who speak for India. But as far as I was concerned, there were two issues I spoke on. One was the revocation of 370 in Kashmir.
And what did you say?
Essentially, I said that there were a lot of laws that were pertinent to all people in India and were not applying to Kashmir. Women were second-class citizens. Minorities were second-class. And that shouldn't be the case anywhere in India. And sometimes women who married outside Kashmiri lost their rights to property, etc. So,
did you find that a lot of people in the European Parliament simply didn't know all this?
No, they didn't.
So they just didn't know. They were taking positions, or actually not taking positions, but certainly not knowing this.
Most of the time, people don't know. They've got no time. They don't go into do some research. You've got to go and talk to them. Of course, you have the anti-Indian side also talking to people.
Talking louder, apparently.
Well, I'm not sure about louder. We won the debate. We
Yes.
won the vote. And the second time I spoke for India was on the CAA.
And what did you then say?
Well, essentially, the CAA law was for minorities who are not Muslims being persecuted in both Pakistan and Bangladesh and even Afghanistan, who were coming into India as refugees. So there was a sort of scheme where the European Parliament was going to chastise India for being aggressively against Muslims.
And this CA itself, as you describe, is intended to fast track Indian citizenship for persecuted non-Muslim minorities from 3 Muslim majority countries.
Correct.
Right.
So, I mean,
and what do you think this whole ruckus is about then?
the ruckus is, from a human rights point of view, it should be equal to all. So, you become a citizen normally, whether you're a Muslim or a non-Muslim, if you live in India for 11 years. This law made the non-Muslims have to only live for 6 years. So the point very simply was, yes, it is not quite right, but why should Muslims be persecuted in Muslim countries? Now they say there are some people who are Hazaras or Ahmadiyas and others, but it's a very tiny minority of refugees coming in.
Well, I mean, there is a question there because within Pakistan, the Sindhis feel persecuted, the Muhajirs feel persecuted, the Balochis feel persecuted, everyone but the Punjabi in Pakistan feels persecuted. So has India in fact shut its doors to all of these people, or at least given them a message that India is not with them?
I'm not sure. The Sindhis are not Muslims.
Oh yes, a lot of in Pakistan, yes.
Okay, well, if they are, then if they're Muslims, why are they being, are they economic tourists or are they really being persecuted? If they're economic tourists, well, sorry. This is not, India, I'm sure, is not a place where you just come in and ask any
Right.
European country. Will they accept anyone?
Yeah, I mean there are controls that every country has, but well, you did make your point of view known on these two very thorny matters, and you were rather clear and forthright in your views. But well, now that is behind. The e-bookers is gone. The European Parliament is gone. What next?
Well, I want to just say one or two other things because they on the CAA,
Yes.
they started saying that you cannot start documenting people because people don't have their papers and all that. Well, I'm sorry, but if you are within a country's territory, within the borders, are you saying that India is not allowed to document those people? I mean, that's unheard of. But these guys are saying, no, you can't. And that was one galling thing. The second galling thing was that this had to do with India and human rights. But the Pakistani ambassador was in Parliament lobbying to get India censured for their human rights abuses. And that was the most galling thing because these guys had persecuted people in Pakistan so that they became refugees. They took their properties. And then they're saying the Indians are bad and the Pakistanis are good guys.
Well, a lot of people will, of course, in India be very thankful to you for speaking up as you did. But moving on from politics, are you staying on in politics even though you're not in the European Parliament?
Well, no, I mean, I'm still a Liberal Democrat, but I don't know as to what's going to happen because the Liberal Democrats don't have, I mean, we've got 11 seats in the House of Commons.
Would you want to be the 12th?
No, I certainly don't. And for the next 5 to 10 years, most probably there'll be a Conservative government. Certainly for 5, if not for 10. And you know, they've got a large majority, and that's great.
So
I might
business
have
done,
to.
so business done, politics done, charity done, and of course ongoing. What next?
But I think I'll go back to business.
What business?
And I wanted to go into solar energy,
Oh, wow.
especially in
That's a
Europe.
change.
Well, I have.
From online travel to European Parliament and now solar energy. Where did this come from?
It's a way, solar energy is green energy. Green energy is really good for you. Good
that
for
it is
everyone.
good is a good thing, yes.
Right.
But why doing it?
I bought a lot of agricultural land in Romania in about 2007, 2008, 2009, when I thought the world financially was going to end. So it was always good to have agricultural land and forest. And now I was thinking of making solar farms on that land.
What grows there now?
Wheat.
Right. And you'd rather have sunshine than wheat?
No, I'd rather have electricity. Well, from a financial point of view, it's far better. And now you can do something called agrivoltaic, which means that you can put solar panels about 9 feet high, and you can grow some great cash crops like chilies and tomatoes.
You can do both.
Yes, you can do both.
So I mean, it's a two-level, two-tier kind of arrangement. We're not talking visas.
That's
yes.
right. Yes.
Right. So you do plan to do that. Have you seen that as a model working anywhere?
In the States.
States again inspiring you.
Well, it's always the States. They're well ahead of all of us when it comes to.
So do you think that you have in place a system of, number one, after trapping solar energy to store it and then to feed it into the grid and feed it even long distance, because these are the challenges?
Well, once you're in the grid, you're connected to the whole world because the grid is.
Well, the grid would connect Romania. It would connect perhaps that part of Europe.
Well, Romania is connected to the rest of Europe.
Yes. So
And,
you treat that grid.
Yeah, and you can sell electricity to anyone. In fact, there are off-takers. Before you can even produce it, you can sell it. And so I could sell it to someone in France,
Yes.
Germany.
Within
Doesn't matter.
Europe. Yes.
No, no
Within
problem.
Europe. So you have buyers even before you've started producing.
And I think it's a good thing because then you can invest, because the investment is quite a lot. It's not sort of, I think for each megawatt you put on, it's about 600,000 euros.
And when do you propose to begin?
I'm going to Romania on the 7th, and I've already started talking to people. I've got the land. It's just that now we need to do all the other work.
Right. And this is all investment that is coming from eventually and going back to the e-booker sale?
No, we can always raise money
Yes.
as long as people know that there's a chance of getting
And
back.
have you raised money for this? And are you finding willing banks and institutions?
Well, I don't see a problem if you've got a good plan to be able to raise money. I mean, I raised it for e-bookers, I can raise it for this.
You've been in Britain for a long time and you've been in international business. I mean, you're not shy of looking at the world, whether it's the US or India or Romania. Do you think of yourself as Indian or British or both?
I think I've got a British passport, I'm British, and but my ethnic roots are Indian. So I always have a keen eye on seeing what's going on in India.
Right. And are you well networked into the Indian scene in Britain? I mean, it's a bit of a busybody scene, but you're not quite into, if I may say, the gossip circuit.
Certainly not. But I mean, most of my family live in India. I was the only black sheep who lives here. Everyone else, my mother's 92, she lives in Delhi. My brother lives there, my brother-in-law, everyone lives there. And I think a lot of people know me because I was the first person to break the glass ceiling, go on the stock market, get into
Yes.
the FTSE 250, etc.
And we have no doubt at all that the sun will shine on your new ventures, Dinesh. All the very best for this.
Thank you so much. That's very kind, Sanjay.
Quick break now, and we'll join some Indians very agitated about some developments in just a bit. Welcome back. We know of the distressing case of Mehak Kumari, the minor Hindu girl in Pakistan, abducted and forced into marriage to a local person. Indian Londoners have been protesting. A group of Indians protested outside the Pakistani High Commission this week to demand protection for Mehak Kumari, a young Hindu girl abducted and forced into marriage with a local man.
I'm standing up for the rights of minority girls, in particular Christians and Hindus, who are often abducted in Sindh province of Pakistan.
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
I want to convey to the UN that there are massive human rights abuses. There's genocide happening in Pakistan. Hindus, Sikhs, Christians are being killed, raped, murdered every day. They've been exterminated, and the UN is sitting quiet and doing absolutely nothing about it.
Stop child abuse!
In Pakistan!
Stop child abuse!
In Pakistan!
All the people here who gather because the Mehak Kumari is kidnapping and forcefully marriage.
She's a minor.
And is minority abusing in the Pakistan.
Justice for!
Mehak Kumari!
Justice for!
Mehak Kumari!
Justice for!
Mehak Kumari!
Justice for!
Mehak Kumari!
It is the abuses of the minorities that's happening in Pakistan, and mainly Pakistan, which is it's gone unnoticed by the international community and the UN.
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
And in the end, let's cross over to the Netherlands to sample a taste of its love of Bollywood.
The popularity of Bollywood knows no bounds. We saw the German women who waited hours in sub-zero temperatures to get a glimpse of Shah Rukh Khan. And now we see the popularity of Bollywood rising in the Netherlands. Amsterdam has been a chosen location for many Bollywood films shooting. Recently, Queen, Hum Tum and Jab Harry Met Sejal have had big chunks shot in Amsterdam. No surprise, because Amsterdam as a city is both quaint and romantic. But if Bollywood is taken to Amsterdam, the Dutch are also taking to Bollywood. Away from more serious business and diplomacy, the Indian embassy has responded to the demand for Bollywood by offering the Dutch more and more.
We have a large Indian diaspora. The second largest Indian community in Europe after UK is here in Netherlands. But beyond that, even amongst the local people, Bollywood is very popular. And recently we had a wonderful initiative on King's Day, which is the biggest national holiday here. We called it Bollywood on a Boat. And we had a boat with Indian dancers performing Bollywood dances, Bhangra, Bihu, and various other folk dances, with the idea that we promote tourism to India. So we had India Tourism and Jet Airways supporting us in this venture. We had advertisements on two sides of the boat encouraging people to travel to India.
And of course in Britain, Bollywood films and events are so commonplace, so much a part of life, you don't really think of them as anything unusual at all. The unusual is more that we'll have to share with you next weekend.